CBDCs explain simply, the end of cash is not about convenience. Introduction: the illusion of progress. When people talk today about a cashless future, it is usually framed as a natural stage of development. Convenience, speed, safety, technological progress. Everything sounds logical and even appealing. Fewer thefts, shorter queues, less physical contact with money that can be lost or counterfeited. But if you look closer, it becomes clear. This is not just about convenience. And it is not only about economics. It is about a fundamental transformation of how society, control, and personal freedom are structured. The shift to a cashless world is not just replacing banknotes with cards or phones. It is the transition from anonymous financial life to a fully traceable system. And the real question is not, is it convenient? But what do we lose when cash disappears? 1. Cash as the last form of anonymity. Cash is a unique instrument. It exists outside digital systems, outside databases, outside servers and algorithms. When you pay with cash, nobody knows who you are. Nobody knows what you bought. Nobody knows why you bought it, and nobody can cancel or block it. This is the key point. Cash is not just a payment method. It is a form of privacy. In a digital economy, every transaction leaves a trace. The bank, the payment system, the processing network, sometimes government, agencies, and all of this can be analyzed, stored, restricted, blocked. This is why the disappearance of cash means the disappearance of the last layer of financial anonymity. 2. From convenience to total transparency. A common argument is, I have nothing to hide. But the issue is not hiding. The issue is control. In a cashless society, every action can be recorded, analyzed, interpreted, and most importantly, evaluated. Money stops being a neutral tool of exchange. It becomes a mechanism of behavioral management. If the system decides you are acting incorrectly, it can restrict certain purchases, lower your credit score, block transactions, freeze your account. And all of this can happen automatically, without court decisions, explanations, or human involvement. Convenience gradually turns into dependence. Financial systems as behavioral control mechanisms in a digital economy. Money is no longer neutral. It becomes a tool of politics, economics, and even ideology. Imagine a system where your carbon footprint affects your spending, your social score affects your access to services. Behavioral algorithms evaluate your purchases. This is not science fiction. It is a logical extension of existing technologies. Credit scoring systems, anti-fraud algorithms, big data analytics, central bank digital currencies, and if cash disappears, individuals lose the ability to step outside this system. You no longer simply pay. You can only pay within the rules. The state and control. Not a question of trust. The issue is not whether a government is good or bad. The issue is the structure of digital money itself. Any centralized system can expand control, can introduce restrictions, can change access rules to money today. It may be justified as fighting crime or money laundering. Tomorrow as economic security. The day after as social policy. And each time, the arguments can sound reasonable, but the outcome is the same. Reduced financial autonomy for individuals. Cash was the last barrier that could not be remotely turned off. The illusion of safety. One of the main arguments against cash is safety. People say, fewer robberies, less shadow economy, less corruption. And indeed, some of these issues decrease. But another question arises, who gains full control over the system? If cash theft was physical, digital money can be blocked, frozen, erased, and this can happen without physical contact with a person. Cashless system removes some risks but creates new systemic ones. The shadow economy does not disappear there. Is a myth that removing cash eliminates the shadow economy, but history shows the opposite. The shadow economy adapts, shifts into new forms. This is alternative exchange systems. When official channels become heavily controlled, illegal activity does not disappear. It becomes more sophisticated. Meanwhile, ordinary citizens lose not crime, but simple freedoms, giving money anonymously, helping someone without a trace, buying something without a digital profile. 7. Programmable money, a new level of control. Next stage of cashless systems is central bank. Digital currencies, CBDCs, their key feature, money becomes programmable. This means money can expire after a certain time, be restricted to specific. Goods work only in certain regions, depend on user. Behavior money becomes a tool with usage. Conditions, it is no longer just a medium of exchange. It becomes a permission to consume. What disappears with cash structurally? Several things vanish. Anonymity every transaction becomes traceable. Unconditional access to money funds can be restricted by system. Rule 3, then independence from infrastructure. No internet and no access to money, physical autonomy, people no longer directly control their funds. Vulnerability of digital systems, fully digital. Financial system introduces another problem. Vulnerability, it can be hacked, shut down, technically disrupted, affected by systemic failures, and in such moments, access to the economy can disappear instantly. Cash is a backup system that works as long as the physical world exists. 10. Social consequences. The disappearance of cash changes not only the economy, but also social relations. Trust becomes different. People depend on platforms, banks become mandatory intermediaries. The state becomes part of every transaction. This increases formal transparency but reduces informal freedom between individuals. 11. The transition is already happening. This is not hypothetical in many countries. Cash usage is declining. Limits on large banknotes are introduced. Digital currencies are being developed. Banks actively discourage cash usage. The transition is gradual so that it feels natural, and that gradualness makes it almost invisible. 12. The key question: who controls the rules? The core issue of a cashless future is not technology itself. It is who defines the system's parameters. Which transactions are allowed, which are blocked, which categories are restricted, which algorithms are used. And the fewer alternatives exist, the greater the system's power over individuals becomes. Can the process be stopped? The question is not about rejecting technology entirely. A cashless economy is a reality, but it is critical to preserve the right to use cash. Alternative payment methods, limits on digital control, transparency. In financial systems, the problem begins when alternatives disappear completely. Conclusion: convenience as a transition mechanism. The story of cash elimination is not really about money. It is about power, control, and freedom of choice. And the most dangerous part is that it usually starts with convenience. Fewer coins in your pocket, faster payments, fewer problems, and it ends with a question. If all money exists inside a system, who controls that system? And if access to that system can be changed with a single decision or algorithm, then money is no longer what it used to be. It is no longer your resource. It becomes your permission.